Welcome to today's webinar, Insurance 2030, Is Your Company Ready? Hello everyone, I'm Deb Smallwood, CEO and founder of Strategy Meets Action, and today I am joined with two SMA partners, Karen Furtado and Mark Brading. Welcome. The theme today and the topic for this webinar is relevant to everyone in the insurance ecosystem. We believe at SMA that you need to really take a longer-term view of the insurance industry. So when we say everyone, we mean insurers, reinsurers, vendors, the whole distribution channel, and even the insurtechs. We need to take a step back and look out to 2030 and really understand the change that is happening, the opportunities, and more importantly than anything is the implications to our strategies, our plans, and our investments. This isn't about a 10-year strategy or plan. It's really about understanding where the industry is going and making sure that you're positioned for 2030. At SMA, we believe that there is significant change happening and transformation happening in and around our insurance. Sure, there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of noise. There's some real transformation happening. If you look at totality at our industry, we are in the midst of a very significant transformation. Our customers, our channels, our products, our operations, our use of technology, how technology will enable our companies and our processes and our roles, and even our overall risk management. So our goal today in this webinar is really to share with you our perspective, our insights, and a new set of transformational frameworks that we have developed that's going to provide some guidance on how you can position your company, your strategy, your plans, and more importantly, your investments for 2030 and to position for that future transformation that we're among. Our advice is really threefold. It's three major components that we think insurance should leverage and use. The first is clarity on strategy. It's really important to understand all the trends that are happening in the industry that are relevant to your company. If you write property and property only, then you should be looking at the trends that have implications to property. If you write work comp, you should be looking at the trends that could have implications to your company and really understand how those lines of businesses are going to morph and change as well. The second is to put a transformational lens on your strategic investments and initiatives, that outside in and inside out lens. We're going to be talking more about that. And last but not least is really make informed technology decisions. A lot of this change really requires significant investments, and you've got to be really on the mark to really understand the right investments at the right time that are right for your company. So, over the past several years, Strategy Meets Action has been tracking innovation, tracking transformation, and we've really narrowed it down to three major external transformation triggers that are out there. We understand that there's a technology maturity and explosion happening, everything from 5G to the advancement and the maturity of artificial intelligence, to the sensors and to the Internet of Things. We understand that we are shifting from a manufacturing and industrial economy, world economy, to more of a platform economy when we start to look at the successes of the Ubers and the Amazons. And we understand that that is also implications directly to our industry. And last but not least is we live in a digital connected world. Everything that we do on a personal level and even a professional level is digital and connected. And those external transformation triggers are having a direct impact on our competition, the competitive shifts, new entries into the marketplace, our risk landscape, what we insure, how we insure, the products, the services, the entire risk landscape of our customers, both personal the consumers and commercial business are changing, and our customer demands are changing. Have real ease of doing business, and the customer absolutely can be agents, brokers, policyholders, injured workers, any stakeholders there. But those are all changing and having direct implications to all of us, right, as I mentioned, insurers, tech, agencies, and this whole new ecosystem that is really advancing. We have an amazing amount of new entries into our industry. What this all means is that we are in the midst of a transformational journey. And this transformational journey is not a project, not an initiative, but we believe that it really is a lens of going out for the next 10 years with a vision, with a path, and really understanding and being in a position for success. So that's why our webinar is called, Is Your Company Ready? Because we all need to be ready for the next 10 plus years. Before I turn it over to Mark, I just want to leverage a quote that we have often mentioned at Strategy Meets Action. It's a Bill Gates quote, and actually I think it's over 10 years old now. But a quote that he stated that is so relevant to today is, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years. We underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10 years. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. So, Mark, I'm going to hand it off to you with that quote on how do insurers not lull into inaction.
Thanks, Deb. Because there's so much transformation underway in the world and in the industry, we think that scenario planning is a really important tool to be using these days. And if you've ever done scenario planning exercises, you know that often what you do is come up with two axes that represent the factors that are going to have the biggest impact on an industry or a company. And what we're going to share with you here is the general model for P&C and what 4 different scenarios might be of the future. And, of course, the reason you do scenario planning is no one can predict exactly what's going to happen in 10 years, but you can start to sketch out some possibilities and then think through the implications for your company to drive strategies and plans. And it's important to understand that though this is a 10-year view, the real purpose of it is to help you position now, what your strategies and plans should be for the next 2 to 3 years, the short term, then the midterm, and then thinking longer term as well. But this is a here and now exercise. It has implications for how you think about your strategies and plans today. Now, I'll start to go through these 4 scenarios, but when we go through this in detail and do these in workshops and so forth, what we like to do is we think through the implications of every scenario for 6 key areas. What does that mean for customers, risks and products, distribution, the industry structure and business models, the workforce and roles, and then for service and back office operations. Those 6 areas, it's important to think how are they going to change. Now, in the 2 axes we have here, we're proposing that the most important factors will be technology adoption. Will we have kind of the steady, slow adoption, maybe not as fast as people anticipated, or will it actually be rapid, high penetration of all of these transformational technologies over the next 10 years in a very different world? And then the y-axis is the nature or the magnitude of change in the industry in general. So you can have a scenario where the technology adoption might be high, but the industry still doesn't change very much, or there can be absolute disruptive change at the top of the y-axis then. So let me quickly step through these 4 scenarios. As you might imagine, the scenario where there's slow tech adoption and minimal change in the industry is really what we call incremental change. we would argue that this is where we are today, and as the name implies, it's kind of continued course and speed. The next one is what we called reinventing operations, and this really represents more of an inside-out approach. It's a more traditional view, maybe more aggressive use of technology for operational efficiency. So you can imagine lots of robotic process automation, chatbots, automated underwriting and adjusting, technology applied to claims, because this is the scenario where there's technology has advanced rapidly and we're trying to use it, but that maybe the industry hasn't really changed very much. So we're not fundamentally changing the business of insurance. In this view, 10 years out, it would be pretty much the same. The next scenario is what we called rethinking models. So this is really more of the outside-in approach, the customer-first approach. So this is really striving to become truly customer-centric. And as you might imagine, a big focus on new distribution partners, new distribution models, InsurTech players have a big role in here. Digital brands have a big role in here. A lot of activity around new user interaction options, omni-channel is vital, those kinds of things. But again, looking at the axes, we're not into a fully connected world with everything smart, with autonomous vehicles. The adoption of those things are slow, but maybe the industry has been doing a lot of rethinking and experimenting with models. And then the final scenario is really the reimagining insurance. And this is where everything changes. All of those 6 areas I mentioned, the customers, the risk, the workforce, all change significantly because we've had, on both axes, dramatic changes, and the world around us is going to be very different. So we'll see new products, new partnerships, new ways to sell and to service, a transformed workforce that is going to blend with AI and those kinds of things. So it's important to think through these scenarios. And again, I can't predict, none of us can predict which of these is the most likely, although it's probably not going to be incremental change. It's going to be one of the other 3. And it's probably going to be some blend of these. But in any case, there are a lot of insights that can be gained for your strategies in going through this process. And it's your strategies for today, and also just along the way as you go through your journey. So I'm going to turn it over to Deb at this stage.
Thank you, Mark. As Mark talks about, we believe that you should really look 10 years out and conduct that scenario planning and look for those watch points and the implications, and then make sure that they're part of your today's transformational journey, your today's plans. So this next framework that we've developed, it's really, we've matured the maturity models that we have been working with for digital and customer over the last couple of years, and made one specifically for insurance transformation journey. And you can see the x-axis is the operational advancement. It's really important to look internally at your operational advancement and then look at your customer focus and the advancements and the implications and the opportunities for your customer. And again, customer can be agent, it can be broker, it can be policyholder, however you define customer. What we've clearly learned over the past several years is that every insurer has their own definition of customer. So when we look at the specific insurance transformation journey, there's a traditional way of going about your journey, and that would be initiatives and projects, right? You do a core replacement, you're putting in a portal, you're building a CRM, maybe you're building a customer database, you're optimizing your operations, you're building out new products, you're expanding channels, expanding maybe new market segments. What we're suggesting is really to have real clarity on that future state. So Mark's presentation around the scenario planning and really thinking out 10 years, you really need to start thinking about the future state of your company. And the two major elements of that transformation journey is the inside out and the outside in. So let me give you a perspective on that. You can see how the inside out is really aligned to the operational advancement. And this is where we really look at the transactions and our workflows and really become a service-driven organization that is optimized, that we have coordinated workflows, automated processes, minimize the handoffs, minimize the manual workarounds, and that we really have this optimized workforce and processes that support transformation. On the outside in is really starting to take a customer more of an empathy, more of an innovation type approach, and provide those connected, seamless services and support and products for the customers that really integrate well with the inside out. This is where the customer actually has that full transparency and clarity, and it's all around providing them with personalized, tailored experiences. And you can see how they are connected. And this is the hard part, and this is where we see there's a big gap in our industry on our transformational journey. As I said, traditionally, we're making investments out there for the customer focus. We're putting portals and we're putting marketplaces out there in CRM, and we're putting in core systems. The real transformational journey is when we connect the two and that we really provide that seamless, optimized workflow and experience for any stakeholder that's interacting with our company to ultimately get to that future state. I'm going to turn it over to Karen now, who is going to talk through what are some of those pieces of the transformational journey. Karen, all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. You know, when we work with insurers as they're going through and starting to map out their journeys, we find they really apply, I'm going to say, three lenses, or there's three paths that insurers take in their focus. And they're interwoven. They're clearly not just any one of these paths. But when we talk about that transformation in the industry, when Deb referred to that initially, that the market is under significant transformation, we see many of the journeys or initiatives focused in these three areas. The first is certainly around the digital and customer experience. I mean, this has been, I'd say over the past 2 years, this has really been a push or a mainline initiative. As Deb just indicated in the previous slide, we have many insurers who are starting to really take that outside-in perspective to understand how to truly transform the experience. It's not just driven internally out. So from a customer experience and engagement, whether that be agent or broker, that's really transforming. And the concept of really a digital experience, really thinking about both our internal operations and our external interactions in a more digitally based, digitally centric, and understanding what are the underpinnings needed for that. So that is one aspect of it. On the left side there, the bottom left, you'll see the foundational technologies. These are obviously technologies that are required for the internal operations to run and support both internal transactions and external transactions. So they could be foundational, like a policy, a billing, a claim system. It could be workflow, document management rules. It could be your CRM systems, your websites, etc. All of those underpinnings that are truly foundational to the way we look at technology. And then on the right side, we hear a lot of conversations going on in what we'll call those transformational technology areas. So, one that's certainly gotten a lot of focus over the past several years has certainly been the InsurTech movement, has been more recently about artificial intelligence, RPA, machine learning, IoT, big data, blockchain. So those type of technologies are in the transformational area. We believe the true power of any of this ecosystem working together, the digital customer experience, the foundational technologies, and the transformational technologies, comes from the intersection and the utilization of the different aspects. So an example would be a foundational technology, let's say of core, utilizing transformational technologies such as our PA or machine learning. The intersection of those two bring much more power to the, quote, foundational technology. The digital and customer experience with the transformational technology, and we have endless list and examples and use cases of insurtechs that are now empowering, let's say, a transformed customer experience, or how a chatbot would transform a claims experience. So those intersections become critically important. And then you'll see in the middle, the orange. It's when the entire transformation really comes together, which works very well with that inside-out, outside-in thinking, but the empowerment of the foundational technologies and the transformational technologies, therefore powering digital experiences, both internally and externally, empowering customer experiences. It looks a lot like using external data to power and transform a customer experience so that, for example, less than 5 data elements can be asked. That's not done just in a siloed application. That actually is that transformation requires all of these to work together. I think we think of them often in their silos, but truly the power we're seeing coming to market is when there's the intersection of all of these really coming to light and putting to good use. So you're not developing in the silos and then trying to figure out how to fuse these together. So those would be the transformational lenses that we see brought to insurers' planning and transformations. So for today's webinar, we'd wrap it up with this particular call to action. As you're thinking out 2030, and then as you're thinking of tomorrow, it's to really start to pursue the concept of scenario planning, to really gain clarity on the impactful transformations that are occurring in and around an insurance, so that you can start to inform your strategies, your strategic directions, your actions for 2020 and beyond. The second element is once you start to understand the scenarios and you start to pick your paths, it's to really start to understand your journey, create your path and map. Create your journey and understand what the watch points will be for a change in that direction or in informing that direction, but not just the singular 1 year at a time outlook. It's to have a greater plan on a journey and then be able to inform it. And the last is really start to align and inform your decisions. These technology investments obviously are significant that underpin the transformations within our companies, the resource realignments. But we would say really start to inform your decisions. Start to explore the investments that are future focused. They're not investments for yesterday's needs. They're investments for tomorrow's needs and investments that you're looking to make. We'd like to thank you all for joining us for today's webinar and have a wonderful day.